for the touchdown, Robinson.
40-yard line, Khalil Mack.
What a grab, Darnell Mooney.
Touchdown, Jimmy Graham. For the safety.
Allen Robinson takes it all the way.
Wow!
It's Hoge Jahns.
Yeah, baby, it's on!
The Bears are what we thought they were.
Football is a team game, and it takes everyone on that team to make the Chicago Bears.
Go Bears!
From NBC Sports Chicago, it's Adam Hoge.
Full disclosure, I've been going straight since 7 a.m. Yeah, you have a best friend. That's a shock.
And from The Athletic, it's Adam Jahns.
I got people texting me about Vegas, LA, Green Bay. I think that the line's going to be garbage, but it's still not going to be an easy game.
It's the Adams.
Nobody can come close to us.
Hoge Jahns.
Let's begin now.
What time is it?
We are underway.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Jahns version of the Hoge Jahns podcast. That works because we got Jon Greenberg here as well, filling in for Adam Hoge. We'll try to get you through it. There is a lot to talk about. Bears had their first open day of organized team activities, OTAs, on Wednesday. Riveting stuff. Andy Dalton was there. Justin Fields was there. You'll see Adam Hoge is not here. We have Jon Greenberg, the Chicago columnist for The Athletic, here with me. He's filling in. What's up, Jon?
Hey, pretty good. When are we going to get these Jon and John's t-shirts?
You're behind Kevin Fishbane, who's still waiting for his Fish Dad, Fish Man shirts to come to obviousshirts.com. But we'll see. We'll see.
All right.
We'll see. But first, hey, we got to wish my guy Adam Hoge and his wife a special congratulations. He's not here because they're celebrating the birth of their daughter, Olivia Rose. I think he shared a picture of that cutie on Instagram and Twitter yesterday. So that's a great name. So congratulations to him.
And in honor of Olivia Rose, I'll predict the Bears are going 15-2.
Adam will like that. He still won't live down his what did he have him as? His 14-2.
It was 14-2.
13-3. Yeah, 14-2. Right? He made.
I think so. Yeah. He was really confident about it too.
Yeah, he was, and that stuck with him. But seriously, all the best to Adam, his wife, and his new daughter,
Very exciting.
And his son too, James. He's now big brother James. So we're excited for them. I couldn't be happier, and more excited for the Hoge family.
You sound excited and happy.
Me?
Yeah.
It's kind of late starting morning, Jon. We got the Dunkin' Donuts going here. I'm not used to driving this, so bear with me. We'll get you through it. But I'm really excited for my guy Adam Hoge. So, all right, you know the deal. Follow me at Adam Jahns, Jahns. Read me at The Athletic. Follow Olivia's dad at Adam Hoge, Hoge. You can read him at NBC Sports Chicago. You can check out our shirts at obviousshirts.com. Remember, part of the proceeds go to charity. So let's go. What's up, Jon? You ready to talk some Justin Fields?
Yeah, now if I would have known I was doing the show, I would have gone to the OTA practice yesterday. I was double booked, okay? So I said I would do that, and then I realized I also said I was going to go to the Cubs game Wednesday. I forgot it was a day game. So even though OTA is a lot closer to my house, I had not been to a Cubs game as a reporter in a while, and I felt like I liked sitting down better than standing and watching practice. So I didn't go
practice on an opposite field where you can't see much.
Right. I did the rookie mini camp for a day for you guys when you were on one of your luxurious vacations of the year, and Fishbane was on his paternity leave. Don't get Mark Potash started on that. And then Fish went to the next one, and then I was supposed to go Sunday, but it got canceled. So I did get to see a little. I got the first day of the Justin Fields experience.
You get the full Justin Fields experience because Andy Dalton wasn't there.
That's true. Well, what was the backup's name? What was that guy's name?
I can't ever remember.
The rookie they had. He's not very good. He's not. That guy's going to be selling something soon.
Yeah, poor guy. So as a columnist, let me ask you. You probably have a different vantage point on this, not just standing on the field, but the way you look at this Bears situation, this Bears team, especially with Justin Fields coming in. Like, how would you characterize your feelings about this team now that they have a brand new quarterback to digest?
Well, I mean, it changed everything, right? I mean, it changed. There's nothing worse, to let you guys, let our listeners in. Like, we either want a team to be really good or really bad, especially me from a columnist point of view. The 8-8, 7-9 teams, 9-7, those are never that fun because you can't really pick a lane. not that exciting. They're not really stirring up people's interest. So, going into the season before they drafted Fields, it was just kind of like, there's a very meh kind of feeling about the team. But now you got a rookie quarterback. You have a rookie quarterback. You have one that people are actually excited about. Like, no offense to Mitch, great guy. We were really interested to see what he was going to be. And when he had those flashes, we were excited. But it is a different ballgame. I mean, Justin Fields to Mitch is just, you can't really, I don't want to say you can't compare them, but like, it's just, we've never seen this really in Chicago, right? Even when Cutler came in, that was the first year I started covering the Bears. Yeah, I mean, Cutler fever, everyone had it, but there was a lot of concerns about Cutler from before he started and then from that first game on. Justin Fields, we've never had a guy with this kind of like, this is the guy people always look at and say, why can't the Bears have a guy like this? We don't know if he's going to succeed, but I mean, the potential's there and the potential to write about him. He's not going to give us, he's not going to throw red meat to us like Jay Cutler, the red meat salesman is now doing professionally. But,
pay you for that plug?
Right. This podcast presented by Cuts. It's like, he's not like super chatty about stuff, but I mean, man, people are excited. I mean, think about like our company, like what they were telling us, like how big the spikes were of interest from Justin Fields when the trade happened.
Yeah, right. I always bring up this fact. Mitch Trubisky went to the Bulls game and he got booed. Yeah. They put him on the big screen, the Jumbotron, and he got booed. Think about that. Like, welcome to Chicago, kid. And if Justin Fields went to the Cubs game like you were at yesterday, or a White Sox game, both teams are playing great. Like, he'd be the applause. There'd be a standing ovation for him.
100%. Yeah, and they said that the day of the draft was a White Sox game, and they didn't even announce it right away. People just got it on their phones, obviously, and there started like a Justin Fields chant started at the Sox game. So that really shows, the difference of what people expect.
Yeah, to me, like. It's a good word there, because you've seen Justin Fields in the biggest college football games. You didn't see Mitch Trubisky unless you were a scout or Ryan Pace at the Sun Bowl. Like, it's just different. Like, there's that sense of familiarity helps with fans in a sense. You saw him maybe lose to Northwestern and then score 6 touchdowns on national television against Clemson. I think that helps fans get over some anxiety over the selection.
Absolutely. And that's what, that's college sports is for, is introducing us, to these guys. And Fields is, people were tweeting about it at the time, right? When Fields is dicing up Clemson, like, why can't the Bears are going to have no shot to get this guy, right? No shot. And, the fact that he fell, to fourth among them, it's like, when do things ever work out like this for the Bears? And we don't know what kind of quarterback he's going to be yet. We have no idea, but just the opportunity is there. The excitement is there. I mean, this is what sports is all about. Bears fans have every reason to be optimistic. I mean, we're going to see, it's funny because I think he's third right now, right? Or second. It's Tebow, and then Fields. And then Fields is like the next.
How crazy is that, by the way? Unbelievable.
It's just like, it's just people having fun. But like, what just came out, and I know The Athletic had it, was they showed NFLPA, like has to do a report for the labor department, and they showed who are the top licensees, the players getting the most money from their licensing. And, I think Tua's 3, it's Mahomes, Peyton Manning, and then Tua and Joe Burrow. And we'll see I bet you Fields is going to rival Mahomes as far as licensing for next year.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He's got to start him to him already. Now he's not going to start right away, but this is not a shared market either. Like a star quarterback in Chicago is something the NFL has been missing. It's never had. Like Jay Cutler was okay, but a true star quarterback in Chicago.
Jay never had a star run. I mean, he never did. Like, he always had that potential and the hope, and he had good games here and there, but he never really had a good run of games, and that was just, his first season was awful, and then the second season he takes in the NFC Championship where he becomes a national joke, and it wasn't fair, but he just never had a run like that where people were excited about him in Chicago, but it never nationally, no one ever liked him.
No. Still don't like him, some of them. As much as his story has changed. I keep your columnist cap on. Like, what are your concerns now? For me, it's what the Bears can actually do for Fields.
Right.
There's less projection. There's less development needed with Fields, especially compared to Trubisky. So now it's almost like the pressure's on Matt Nagy, Bill Lazor, John DeFilippo. His receivers getting Ryan Pace in there and, getting his star quarterback, his new young quarterback some help. Like, the pressure is elsewhere. Where are your concerns with this situation for Fields?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a big one. I mean, I'm somewhat pro Nagy. I don't, obviously my optimism wavered a little bit last year when you saw kind of the mistakes that happened, the quick trigger to get Foles, which we liked at first, but then you saw kind of the downside of it. I thought he kind of threw Mitch under the bus a little too much at times. So yeah, there's definitely pressure on these guys. They're not like Bill Lazor. I mean, I'm sure he's a good coach, but it's not like Bill Lazor is Bill Walsh. I mean, what's he really done? I mean, I don't, not to, like, again, I'm sure a great coach, but it's not like he's foolproof or like, time tested. Matt Nagy, worked under the great Andy Reid. He's not the brains of the operation. So yeah, I think those are all concerns. I think just the general NFL concern of keeping a guy healthy, and just wondering what's going to be the thing. Like, right, what's the turning point of this? What's going to be, all we think about is what could go wrong, because we just have never seen anything really go right offensively with this team. So it's kind of tough to really just put Fields into like a blueprint of what we've seen before in Chicago and what we've seen with these coaches. There's a lot of unknowns. So I guess I'm not really concerned about one particular thing. It's just the unknowns, that we know, the known unknowns.
Yeah. I do think, like, Nick Foles' failures changed the conversation about Nagy a bit, because this was a guy who was supposed to come in there and run the offense as expected, as hoped, right, as planned. Mitch Trubisky did not do that. In 2019, Trubisky got the scrutiny. You saw the dialed-up deep shots where Taylor Gabriel is open in multiple games, and Mitch misses him, sometimes really badly. That is on Trubisky. Great play call by Matt Nagy, missed by Mitch Trubisky. But then in 2020, like, some of those misses were still there, but now it's like, why is Nagy still calling him if the quarterback can't hit them? Why is the run game not working for the third year in a row? Why does Nick Foles stink like that? Like, he came out really, really well. That game in Atlanta, awesome performance. He had a couple other good moments, beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the eventual Super Bowl champions, but then he stunk. So I'm always... In Chicago, it's always interesting to watch how the narratives change from week to week and even season to season, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, covering every team here, since 2009, really, and before that up back to 2003 when I started. So, like, yeah, it's the Lou Piniella line I always quote, when people in Chicago just get too giggly, too high when things are going well and just really low when things are bad. And I think that's just a product of the experience of being a fan of these teams and covering these teams, because there's just a lot. We've had some real inconsistent teams to cover and follow. I mean, you see it. White Sox win the World Series in 2005, make one playoff appearance until last season. The Cubs are the Cubs. The Bears, still talking about 85. They get one playoff appearance out of Cutler. It's just like, how can you expect Chicago fans to be anything, but that, to have anything but that kind of roller coaster sense of emotion? That's why I don't like it when we as sports journalists, and now we have Twitter to do that with, like, chide fans for getting too excited or too down about teams. Well, like, what do you expect? Like, this is all they've known. Like, they're not robots. Like, the purpose of what's a fan but a fanatic, right? So, like, they should get really excited about I'm going to keep calling him Josh Fields because of my experience covering the White Sox, about Justin Fields. I want to do, maybe I'll call Josh Fields about that. See if he's getting, like,
you're not the only one,
right? Like, see if Josh Fields is getting, like, a resurgence of, like, tweets and stuff. He should start a Twitter account if he doesn't have one, just to see if he gets, like, the strays.
Yeah. The people who can't, like, really stay on top of things on Twitter.
Right. Like Nationals reporter Mark Zuckerman. Who gets all the Mark Zuckerberg tweets.
No, my favorite one was the bodybuilder Jay Cutler.
Right.
Who, like, you don't want to mess with that guy anyway, but, here he is getting all sorts of hate mail and whatnot,
and he kills Jay in the Google search, Google Analytics. He comes up first all the time.
He does, even with the TMZ report that Jay Cutler's going after Kristen Cavallari's business.
I know. Did you support that by buying his bracelet that was a can opener?
I did not. The other day I could have used one. Last weekend I could have used one of those.
Right. It's like, yeah, now you're like, man, I really could use a bracelet that's a can opener or just a can opener that you don't wear on your wrist.
Yeah. Honestly, when he first came out with that, John, I'm like, that is a great idea. Like, why?
It is. How often do you wear a bracelet?
Never.
Right.
Maybe if there was like a watch function in there, maybe like a watch can opener.
Right. I mean, that was why, when we were in college, the can opener keychain was like as important as actually having the key. Having that. Although, I guess most of the stuff I drank in college really didn't require a can opener.
Your Keystone Lights and Busch Lights.
Yeah, right. I didn't really need. I guess unless I was shotgunning it, I didn't really need it.
Yeah, that's when you need the key.
Right.
Andy Dalton. Matt Nagy made sure to bring up his red hair yesterday, which I thought was kind of funny and interesting. But it's usually the columnists who start the calls for the changes, right? Like right. It usually starts with you, Rick Tellner, Rick Morrissey, David Hall. Like eventually, you guys have seen enough. Sully, Paul Sullivan's gonna get in on this too. Eventually, all you guys are gonna see enough of Andy Dalton. You're gonna call for the change. Like, so what's your game?
Okay, so I did a story on it. When the schedule came out, looking at specific games, I thought I'm being a little more controlled this time instead of just saying, it's useless to start Andy Dalton. You got to start Fields right away. I get it because experience is the best teacher. I do think I would love to see Dalton succeed at first because this is a long play for Justin Fields. This isn't a quick. He's not a savior, right? He's not here to save the 2021 Bears. They finally have a guy for the future. I'm perfectly fine with them being, conservative about it. But in the same sense, we know he's going to play this year. Like almost all, you can use Mahomes as the one, the lone example really, but like they all play. So like, I think it is important for him to play at some point this year. Now it depends on wins and losses, how Andy Dalton's doing. So like I put down as my conservative guess, something like, maybe week 8, right? Now that's not perfect because the next week is at Pittsburgh on Monday night, which is not great for your young quarterback. But guess what? This is the NFL. He's going to have tough games. There's never really a stretch of more than 1 or 2 easy games in a row. And the Bears have this weird back and forth home and away thing this year. So there's not like a couple ones to get them situated at home. So I kind of like that. I think that would be almost a best case scenario for the Bears is if they're around like 500 or something, they make that change against San Francisco on Halloween and let him go from there because then he's got a Monday night game and then the bye week. And then you let him do the second half of the season and see what he's got.
Yeah, Olivia's dad and I went through the schedule, and there's really no soft point, like no entry point. Like there's no easy bye week or easy game after a bye week, I should say, to start him. To me, the change, the decision to change comes down to the point when Andy Dalton becomes the problem. Right, like they want. Yes,
when they switched to Mitch.
Yes, it was clear. Like even last year, it became that Nick Foles was one of the problems. He was no longer part of the solution.
Right.
Where you have to swallow your pride and go back to Mitch Trubisky to possibly save your season. And actually, Mitch did that in a sense. Now it came against bad teams, but he still did it. But that changed the season. I don't know when that's going to happen. It's tough to say. It is a tougher schedule. I'll say this. In terms of first impressions, like you didn't get the chance to see Andy Dalton, but my first impression of Nick Foles during training camp was like, this doesn't look good. He looks uncomfortable. He's checking the ball down a lot. Yesterday was different for Andy Dalton. It was to Cole Kmet, Marquis Goodwin, down the field a lot. Jimmy Graham in the back of the end zone. He was aggressive. Now it helped to be playing against the defense that only included one starter because Roquan Smith was the only defensive starter to show up. But
did he not get the email? Did he not get the group text from the rest of the guys?
I know. Right? He's not in that one.
Right.
Or, like all of us, we're in like too many and you can't keep up with what's going on in the multiple groups and whatnot.
Everyone.
Yeah.
No, but listen, Dalton's better than some. I mean, listen, Mike Glennon is just not that good. And like I have a quarterback friend who played in college around the same time as him. He texted me professional and he's like, Mike Glennon's never been good. Like I don't he's like, I just don't get it. I don't understand the fascination with this guy. Andy Dalton's good. He's fine. He's not a great quarterback. He's not the best. No one's arguing over Andy Dalton's place in quarterbacks, right? Of all time. he's just a pretty good quarterback, and I think he should be fine. I think really though, we'll look at it, not to be all football coachy, but after 4 games, right? That's when we're really going to start 3 or 4 games. That's when you're really going to start evaluating how he's doing. Give him those first few games, and you break it up into quarters to get all, football coachy. Now we can't do it perfectly because of the 17th game, but I think after 4 is when you're going to start seeing the calls, right? Unless he's just awful from the beginning.
Like really awful.
Like 2 bad series, then people start.
Yeah. Well, you're going to get those comments after the first interception, and maybe the broadcast will bring it up. And look, I think it's important to note that the Bears, the 2021 Bears, are significantly better than the 2017 Bears. Just go look at those receiving cores. Dontrell Inman, Trey McBride, Kendall Wright. Are you kidding me? Deion Sims. What the Bears have now for Andy Dalton.
Yeah.
Like even pass protection wise, it's better. It's an upgraded team. Like Mike Glennon. 2017 Bears weren't good. Mike Glennon made them worse, but the 2021 Bears at least have. I mean, they made the playoffs, albeit as the extra 7th seed, but they're still a playoff team.
Here's a question I have. Do you think, the thing you talk about, stuff that concerns you, is Matt Nagy going to outsmart himself again? Because we've seen it in a few seasons where Nagy, I like Nagy a lot and I like his energy, and I feel like he just sometimes does too much. The kicking competition, that was doing too much, right? In last year's quarterback competition, his brief quarterback competition, which was like a lot of smoke screen. I mean, he was just waiting he was just waiting to put in Nick Foles, So, I mean, I wonder sometimes, when he gets a little too antsy this year, and if he's going to be able to control himself and actually just, be calm about things and just give Andy the chance. And I think he will, because I think he probably respects Andy. I'm not that he didn't. I don't know. The Mitch thing was kind of a problem with me. Sometimes you did feel like he just was frustrated with Mitch and was just done with
it. Oh, for sure. Sure.
I mean, and, not to say he didn't respect Mitch, but I'm sure Mitch is glad to be gone.
Yeah. I think what Matt Nagy, I was using his full name there, what he needed was Mitch to take that next step.
Right.
And maybe Trubisky took one off the field and seeing what, being able to discuss what the Bears wanted to run, but on the field, it was always like a step back. Like he still couldn't complete and do what Matt Nagy, why am I using his first full name, what Nagy wanted him to do. And I think that did. Yeah, absolutely. There were some frustrations for Nagy to get through.
And I love that Mitch, just kind of took it on, after he got benched, he kind of, I think, I don't want to say he came out of his shell, but kind of did with the media in terms of he wasn't no more yes, sir, no, ma'am type stuff. He was trying to take control of his career. And I think it was a real wake-up call for him. I think it's, when you come in as a first-round quarterback, the 2nd pick overall, you have the sheen about you, franchise savior. Everyone's kind of catering to you, even though he's not an ego guy. He's not gay, but he's not a huge ego guy. But I think there is that sense where you're protected. And then he kind of realized that it's not the case anymore. So I kind of, Mitch has his limitations and he has his faults, but I really respected how he kind of just came out after that benching and just said, I'm going to do what I'm going to do.
Yeah. And actually he injected more of himself into the play calls. He went to the coaches with what he wanted to run at the end of the season. He took control of his own story. You saw things kind of fall apart against the Packers and then in the Saints in the playoffs. But yeah, things just weren't right by the end of the season, at least with Nagy and Trubisky. I think if you're the Bears, you hope Matt Nagy learns from this. That he's whatever didn't work between him and Mitch is not the same with him and Justin Fields. That by being involved, so thoroughly involved in the pre-draft process with selecting Justin Fields to celebrating, it's swearing out of excitement after you select them. That helps change things. Now you guys are linked. I think maybe Nagy always felt like he'd get a second chance, and here's his second chance. But now Fields is everything to Nagy. So you would hope he would learn from any of the mistakes that he made in dealing with Trubisky in that developmental process.
Right. And I think the pre-draft process, I think that's something, and you wrote about it really well, very profitably for the company, in how that went down. But the fact that they have better people advising Ryan Pace on this, and this quarterback quorum they have, of who's good and who's not. And it wasn't just Ryan Pace falling in love with this guy because of his personality and his intangibles, like he did with Trubisky, and seeing potential. They could with Fields with 2 seasons as the starter for, I would say arguably, one of the 2 or 3 premier football, programs in the country, along with Alabama and Clemson. You can see it's just a different level of competition, and what Fields, was able to do in college, I think is a lot easier for them, to decipher. You didn't have to put your rose-colored glasses on and say, oh, imagine if this guy could get his deep ball together, or imagine if he could do this better. Like, he could do it. Here it is. Here's the film.
Yeah, in big games. Like, there's just less projection with Fields. And to be honest, like, if you're just comparing him to his draft class, and I've said this in previous podcasts, I want to hear what you think, John. Like, Trey Lance, there's a lot of risk there.
Yeah.
Zach Wilson, there's a lot of risk there. I understand the talent. I understand the projection, but if there's anything we learned as outsiders, maybe it's okay to take the safer bet. Maybe it's okay to look at the guy from Ohio State who played in some of the biggest college football games over the past couple of years and say, all right, maybe there's, you start poking holes in his game, maybe too much, but it's the safer pick. It's the better pick in my mind, at least when you look at the way things played out with Trubisky. Like, Deshaun Watson should have been the pick.
Right.
The safer pick, the more productive college quarterback pick. Zach Wilson and Trey Lance have a lot to prove for the Jets 49ers.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. I think, you talk to people around the league, everyone's got different opinions. You can't, every unnamed scout is not a genius, but I think a lot of people put Fields at number 2. Especially the people that didn't have to make those picks and those guesses and take those risks. People I talk to are like, yeah, it's, I could definitely see him being, 2. And I mean, could be better than Trevor Lawrence, but 2, I think, is a pretty safe. I think him at 2, as the second best is a pretty safe assumption. Now, what do you think of Field in person? He's thick, man. He's a well-built dude. I mean, he's not Trubisky.
You're using Pat Finley's word. You can't use that word. Yeah,
he's not like Trubisky looking like a tight end, but like he's like a very lower half, especially, which is pretty important.
Yeah, well, especially in today's NFL, you need that mobility. Now, I think his ability to process and his ability to hit those deep balls, those stand out to me. But you need your quarterbacks to be mobile now. These pass rushers are just. They're too fast. They're too fast. They come from both sides now. It's just not like you need that blind side protected. They come from both ends. We know, Khalil Mack will rush off the right tackle a lot. So that'll be good work for the Bears rookie offensive tackles, just thinking of it. But yeah, I think it was David Montgomery yesterday who said, you could see I forget his exact words, but extremely, insanely athletic, I think were the words David Montgomery used to describe Justin Fields. And then he went on to praise the guy. Like, that stands out to me. Like, even with Andy Dalton there, players are taking notice. Like, they should take notice. They should feel a different vibe when Justin Fields is walking around the fields at Hallis Hall.
Absolutely. You could see, we saw it from the instant reaction from guys like Eddie Jackson. Game respects game. Like, these are guys, when you watch NFL players are watching college games, they're loving a guy like Justin Fields. They're all going nuts because they recognize talent. They recognize guys liked Mitch. I think, he's a real nice guy, but it's just different. So, and they respected Mitch's athletic ability and whatever, but as a quarterback, it's going to get all the attention, all the money, and all the responsibility. I think these guys are really pretty enamored with Justin. Now, I guess Andy Dalton had a much different reaction than the infamous Mike Glennon interview that we had in 2017, where before Fishbane was working for me, I made him go count how many times he said it's my year.
This is my year. Oh, that press conference. Well, I don't think Andy Dalton was at a draft party, sponsored and held by the Bears at Soldier Field when Justin Fields was selected. So the start is a bit different. It just goes back to the process to me, John. Like, it's Matt Nagy calling Andy Dalton in the morning of the draft and telling him this is a possibility, keeping him up to date on the situation. and then calling him immediately after the selection of Justin Fields when he gets off the phone with Justin Fields and telling him, all right, this is now a reality. We still believe in you. This is your year. We want to sit Justin for as long as we can, and it's really on you to do that. So the mentor role, I think Andy Dalton embraces. I don't think Mike Glennon was ready for that. And he shouldn't. Mike Glennon's not like he's not a mentor either. Like Andy Dalton's played a lot more football, like significantly more football than Mike Glennon at this point in their careers.
Right. And once you get past the point where you're the original team you're with for like a decade, let you go, and then you can either bounce around, maybe catch fire somewhere, win a little bit, or you become a mentor. And listen, being a mentor as a quarterback in the NFL is a very, very profitable, low risk type of business. Our guy Chase Daniel never had a chance to even start. He's just a media mentor, but like you can make good money. It's a nice little career. Work on your golf game, wear your hat backwards, make $1 million, $2 million. It's pretty good.
Yes.
Pretty good lifestyle.
Star in some team-produced videos where you trick your teammates into thinking you're a fan. Like remember those Chase Daniel videos?
Right. I mean, literally, the sky's the limit. Maybe you get a house in Glencoe next to the Fish Man. You're just living life.
Yeah. Anything else about this team this year in 2021? I mean, everybody's talking about the defense because nobody was there yesterday. I'm not too concerned about that. All the guys, as expected, are on Zoom, but like.
Right, they're doing the Zooms. These guys, like, it's voluntary. Like, they just, some teams are taking a stand. I understand it. Like, defense will be fine as long as they're healthy. They're healthy, they're fine. You hope that they're I can't imagine there's much concern about guys like Khalil Mack taking care of their bodies. So. Yeah,
and from my understanding, he's actually been in house off for, like, other workouts in the past. So, it is all voluntary. The Bears aren't the only team going through this. Like, I think you would like to see the Deion Bushes of the world be there, like the Artie Burnses of the world be there. Who else was in there? Jordan Lucas. I'm just going through all the defensive backs.
Yeah, it stinks for Desai a little bit, just not having his guys there, so we can really get a look at them on the field as the guy in charge. But like they're going through the classes, training camps. What's important? These guys will be there for that.
Yeah, 3 defensive linemen were there yesterday. So yeah, like. You want your numbers a little bit better, but especially for your new defensive coordinator, your young defensive coordinator, but it is what it is. It's voluntary, and the majority of the offense was there, John, and that's all we're there to see, right? Justin Fields, Andy Dalton, no Allen Robinson.
Maybe the defense just knew that we weren't going to talk about them anyway. They know the narratives. They follow people on Twitter. They know it's just Justin Fields shows. So they're like, why come? It's like it reminds me of an old story I remember. I remember Melissa Isaacson telling me about it from Cutler's first training camp. Porters are standing around waiting for Cutler as usual. And Lance Briggs comes up to them and is like, what? No one wants to talk to me anymore? He's like, what do you need me to do? Dance for you? And he starts doing like a little dance. And, because that was I think the point of time when like, Lance was probably worried about a contract or something. So now he actually does want to talk.
Yeah. Well, I remember the days where Charles Tillman would bust our chops on the sideline. Nobody wants to cheer on defense. Everybody's going crazy about the deep balls from Cutler to whomever when Martellus Bennett and Brandon Marshall were there, but the defense was still doing its job.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's just, it's a really funny style. It would definitely be a good story to tackle one day is how defense really feels about like our obsession with quarterbacking in the league. Because I remember after Cutler's NFC Championship game being in the locker room next day, and it was still a big deal. Peanut kind of said something to us basically like, a lot of guys. He wasn't downplaying Jay's injury, but he just goes, a lot of guys get hurt. A lot of us get hurt, and maybe we play through stuff or we have to leave, and like you guys are really making a bigger deal out of this than like you would if it was one of us. So yeah, interesting point of view.
Right. All right, John. Well, thanks for filling in for Olivia's dad, as I'll call him on this podcast. You can
15-2.
15-2. Anything you want to plug? Anything you got coming up? I know you went to the Cubs game yesterday. What are you working on?
I just did. Yeah, I did a column yesterday on the Cubs. I'm actually working on an interesting baseball story that goes beyond Chicago. I don't want to be one of those people teasing it before it's done, but it'll be out probably on Monday. We're taping this on a Thursday, so it'll probably be out Monday. So I'm working on that feature right now. Keep reading The Athletic.
When's your next story on John Shire?
That's a good one. I think Brian Hamilton for us is working on that because he really covered Shire for the Trib, during his high school career. So I did talk about to one of his friends about maybe going to get the John Shire steak sandwich at Little Louie's in Northbrook because he does have a sandwich named after him. I drove through downtown Northbrook yesterday, and there wasn't, a big party quite yet. Maybe they're waiting to.
That's big news. John Shire, Chicago kid, North Suburban kid, taking over for Coach K at Duke.
Listen, it's awesome. And 10 years, it's funny. 10 years ago, I was looking for the story. He was out of college. He was playing summer league for the Heat, and he was going to make the Heat. I think, like possible I said his job was going to be the first guy off the bench to high five LeBron and like Dwayne Wade. But there's a good chance he's going to make the Heat. And he got his eye cut at summer league, and like they kind of screwed him up. The ambulance took him the wrong way. Like his eye was really bad. He still can't really see fully out of one of them.
Wow.
Like they possibly could have sued, but they didn't. So he still wanted to make it, but no one had heard from him for a while. So his friend Justin Weiner, who was a WGN radio guy, who was a good friend from high school, and he put me in touch with him. And 10 years ago, I did this big feature on what he's doing now and how he's recovering from the eye incident. And like right after I did it, he got so much attention and people were like reaching out to him. He told me, and then he decided to go back. He went back to the G League or D League, whatever it was called then, and went back to play for a couple years in Europe, here and in Europe. And then, right on to coaching. And I've kept in touch with him, after that column. He didn't get the DePaul job. Like I think he wanted DePaul. Kind of worked out for him.
Yeah, I would say,
yeah, he's a great guy. I mean, just a really good person. Did you cover him at all during that?
No, I remember. Well, I worked in the office during Glenbrook North's title run. They won it his junior year.
Yeah, senior year he lost to Derrick Rose.
Yeah, that's right. And you shared a great picture of Shire and Derrick Rose fighting for the ball. I think if you're from Chicago, like you heard about Shire when he was like in 8th grade.
Right.
Like in that GBN team, yes. Oh, the buzz around him was intense, and he proved it with GBN. He got he went to Duke. Was a great player there. I mean, he never became like an NBA level player like we're talking about. But in Chicago, if you follow Chicago basketball, Jon Shire's a name you remember.
Yeah, he's one of the all-time greats, and that's why he's been able to recruit Chicago for Duke. And last year in 2020, pretty much about a month before the pandemic, I did. With the All-Star game coming in, I did a big story on like what Chicago basketball means to different people. And I tried to talk to different people from different eras. And I talked to Shire, and he told me, just how much respect he had for Chicago basketball history, and, what a big fan he was of history, and how he used to go to the Proviso West tournament as a kid to watch these great teams, and how when he did that, when he scored 21 points in 75 seconds, he felt really honored. And he told me the thing that really, bother him to this day is that they didn't win. He actually lost that game while scoring like 51 points. So he loved Chicago basketball. We even talked a little bit about the idea of being, a white basketball player from the rich suburbs of Chicago, and having to prove himself, in the summers and things like that, and against great teams, and how much that motivated him. So I'm a big Jon Shire fan. No one wants to root for Duke, but in his case, I will.
Well, Coach K is a Chicago guy. I think, there's always been a connection to
absolutely.
This area.
Yeah, right. He was from like Wicker Park, basically, like, West Town. So, yeah. I'm happy for Jon. I'm happy for his family and for his friends.
You should write something.
I will. I'll probably write something. Hopefully.
All right. Well, thanks, Jon. Everybody who's listening can follow Jon Greenberg at Jon_Greenberg, right? You can read his Cubs stuff, Bear stuff, all the Chicago sports stuff here on The Athletic. Thanks, Jon.
All right. Thanks for having me.
All right, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break here, everybody, and then we're going to play some Matt Nagy on Justin Fields. I'm going to give you my thoughts on the Bears' plan. Then I'll answer your questions from Twitter. We all know that dads are notoriously hard to find gifts for. What do you get the guy who always insists he's got everything he needs? That's where the amazing team at Artifact comes in. Think of Artifact as an on-demand podcast studio that helps you tell those embellished fishing stories or immortalize your favorite dad jokes. Artifact sets Dad up with a professional interview to reminisce about everything from his childhood, those college glory days, and, raising you. Artifact then edits that conversation into a private radio quality episode that sounds like the real thing. It's a gift that makes him the star of the show. Recording Dad is just one of the ways you can use Artifact too. I'm making one with my kids to preserve those memories forever as well. It couldn't be easier to get started. Step 1. You go to heyartifact.com and choose the type of interview you like to do. They've got a bunch of options, or you can create your own. Step 2, Artifact makes it super easy to schedule your interview on their website. Step 3, the interview lasts about half an hour and you do it over the phone. So visit heyartifact.com to learn more, and right now you can use the promo code TheAdams to save $40 off your first purchase. Again, that's heyartifact.com. For a Father's Day gift you'll always remember and be able to experience forever. Dinner time can be stressful. With Freshly, it's not. It's easy. Their chefs take care of your meals a few nights a week and take the pressure off you. Freshly offers chef-made, nutrient-packed, delicious meals delivered fresh to your door. No cooking required. Ordering is very easy. Visit Freshly.com and choose from over 30 delicious, satisfying, better-for-you meals like steak peppercorn, sausage baked penne, or their chicken pesto bowl. They're all delicious. Your meals are always delivered fresh, never frozen, and are ready to heat and enjoy in just 3 minutes. With new meals added each week, Freshly brings the convenience of chef-made, nutritionist-designed classics right to your kitchen. Right now, Freshly is offering our listeners $40 off your first 2 orders when you go to freshly.com/Adam. Stop stressing about dinner. Go to freshly.com/Adam for $40 off your first 2 orders. That's freshly.com/Adam to get $40 off your first 2 orders.
Jeff Dickerson.
Hey, Matt. Great to see you today.
Hey, Jeff. How you doing, man?
Wonderful. Hey, since the end of rookie minicamp, how have you seen Justin Fields go about the business of trying to acclimate himself to the team, to the offense, and to being an NFL quarterback?
Yeah, Jeff, he's done a really good job at just trying to digest everything that we're teaching this offense in particular right now. You know, the one thing that you learn when you get with Justin is you really realize that, you know, he does everything really well in a group setting. He listens. He observes Andy, Nick, Coach Flip, Bill Lazor, myself when we're in there. But also, too, I think you talk to these coaches and then myself as well included, when you're able to have one-on-one individual conversations with him. And sometimes those settings are a little easier and you can be a little bit more specific with him. You really see him open up. So it'll be cool to see him once he really starts understanding what we do here in this offense, to see him continue to just grow and open up and ask good questions, which he's done. And everything that we thought he was going to be when he got here, with just learning and being obsessed with doing everything that we teach him, and then being able to just kind of be himself out there in the field. He's really doing things in a really good way. And then I also want to credit Andy and Nick in those meeting rooms. It's again, it's really neat to see the way that they treat him, the way they help him, and vice versa. So I wish you all could be in there to see it. It's just the start right now, but I think for all of us that they're certainly all growing. Same with Andy, is his first time going through this offense. Stacey Dales.
I'm just curious about the different leadership that you've seen from both already with Andy and Justin, and how they're juxtaposing each other, because they're obviously different players.
Andy and Justin and Nick. Again, I've lived it. I've been a part of it in the meetings and the practice field with how it goes, the dynamics, and it's very natural. Those guys have each other's backs, you know, and so now I think what we're seeing is, you see a guy right now in practice with Andy that he's been doing this for 9 or 10 years. And so when he calls a play and he sees a short motion coming in and the guy's going to quick tick and then hit it on a shallow cross, he times it up just right. Well, Justin's never done that before. This is the first time he's doing that. And so when he brings a guy in short motion and quick ticks it and hits it on the run, the timing might be a little bit off. And so, like, Justin just needs more reps to get well, Andy's done that for 9 years. So Andy's seen rotation. He's seen post-snap stuff. And I think that, like, football-wise, they're growing at really good paces right now, but they're also helping each other out, which is going to make us better. And now we're just trying to teach this offense to all the rest of the guys as well.
All right, one last one from Joe Lewis.
Yeah, Matt, in regards to Justin needing more reps, and in addition to what you just spoke about, Andy, how has Justin's mentality been? Let's say he has missed a pass or he has sailed one. How has his response been, at least in your perspective, when that's happened?
It's been good. Now, it hasn't happened a lot because we're only a few days in with going against the defense. So a lot of this has been on air. So being able to see it now, he's extremely, extremely calm, which I love. So when something bad happens and the next play, it doesn't matter to him because he's so calm and he has confidence in himself. When something good happens, he reacts the same. And that part that's a good trait to have because you can never get too high and you can never get too low. That's why he's had the success he's had. You talk about the games that he played last year, the struggles that they had against Northwestern and Indiana. And, but yet he also comes back in a lot of those plays and steps up and makes plays, or the next game has a great game. And so it's in his DNA. He's wired the right way. And that's what I love about him. And all Justin wants to do right now is football. That's all he cares about. He just wants to be the best quarterback he can possibly be. He wants us to be able to teach him everything we can teach him. He wants to be able to learn from Andy. Coach Flip and Coach Laser are doing a phenomenal job right now, man. You want to talk about obsessed and passionate about helping these quarterbacks out. So it's neat to see. You feel it, and we just got to keep that going. And again, work to that plan that we talked about with all those quarterbacks, and then just let these guys grow at their own pace, and then let us be able to evaluate them.
All right, that is Matt Nagy, as promised, talking about Justin Fields. I know everybody needs their Justin Fields content. So there you have it. He's always going to be a topic of conversation. Yes, Andy Dalton is here. Andy Dalton was praised by Matt Nagy for a lot of things on the field. It's his anticipatory throws. It's the fire, the red-headed fire he shows when he's correcting his teammates. Off field, he's been great for Justin Fields as well. But I think that last quote from Nagy speaks to what Jon Greenberg and I were talking about earlier. It's that, it's seeing him in big games. I think you mentioned Northwestern and Indiana. It's seeing him respond after mistakes in those games. We keep going back to that Clemson game, and it's learning from it. It's building on things, and his development is going to be everything. We know it. But I think right now, from an intangible sense, Fields is in a good place. He's in a good place to learn. I think John DeFilippo, his expertise in terms of let's call it recent experience, developing Carson Wentz, at least for a couple years before things went awry there. Flip wasn't there for those years where things went sideways with the Eagles and Carson Wentz. But I think Flip and Coach John DeFilippo, I should say, what he brings to the table will be important for Justin Fields. And, just a couple thoughts on what we saw from him in OTAs. It wasn't a great day, at least from my perspective for Justin Fields. But again, this goes back to what Matt Nagy just said about responding and learning from it. From my vantage point, we saw Justin Fields throw an interception. He was on the opposite field. I couldn't take note of who the player was, but you hope when he watches that, he learns from it. I don't know if Matt Nagy saw that enough for Mitch Trubisky, especially as the interception started to build in training camp. So something to watch. If you want to listen to Nagy again, just rewind. But it's always good to get that perspective. All right. We're going to take another quick break. And then after that, I'm going to have your questions. Summer. It's camping season, so let's talk about pitching tents. That's right, guys. This episode is sponsored by Blue Chew. Guys, confidence can take you far in life. It can also help in the bedroom, especially when it comes time to step up to the plate. That's where Blue Chew comes in. Blue Chew is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, but in chewable tablets at the fraction of the cost. You can take them anytime, day or night, so you can plan ahead or be ready whenever an opportunity arises. The process is also simple. Sign up at BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. The best part? It's all done online, so no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversations, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. Blue Chew's tablets are made in the USA and prepared to ship direct to your door in a discreet package. So guys, there's nothing sexier than confidence, and Blue Chew can help give you the confidence where it counts. So if you could benefit from extra confidence when it's time to perform, Blue Chew can help. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free when you use our promo code HJ at checkout. That's BlueChew.com, promo code HJ to receive your first month free. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the podcast. All right, Kent, here we go. 3, 2, 1. We all know that we should drink more water. It's starting to feel like summertime finally in Chicago. It's going to be about 90 degrees this weekend, but by the time you feel thirsty, everyone, it's probably too late. You're already dehydrated. You can't focus. You feel tired. This is where Hydrant comes in. Hydrant is a refreshing drink mix powder made with 4 key electrolytes. It's made with real fruit juice powder and no artificial sweeteners or synthetic colors. No nonsense, all science. Plus, they have Hydrant Sleep. It's a new bedtime mix made carefully. Fix this, Kent. Plus, they have Hydrant Sleep. It's a new bedtime mix carefully formulated to promote restful sleep and hydration. It includes melatonin, magnesium, and more to get that high-quality sleep. Everything is backed by a 100% satisfaction guarantee. If you don't love it, send it back for a full refund. Try Hydrant today and save up to 20% on your first order. What are you waiting for? We've got a special deal for our listeners to save 20% off your first order or subscribe and save 30% off on your first subscription order. Go to drinkhydrant.com/Adam or enter promo code Adam at checkout. That's drinkhydrant.com/Adam. Enter promo code Adam for 20% off your first order. Drinkhydrant.com/Adam and enter promo code Adam to save 20%. And we thank them for sponsoring the podcast. Hydrant, where water meets wellness. All right, I asked for him, and you sent a bunch of questions over last night about the Bears OTA. So let me go through at least a bunch of these before we get out of here. This one is from Dave Saunders on Twitter. Can you shed some light on what drills and techniques are used specifically to evaluate the QB position? Does Nagy have a particular process in deciding, or is it just basically an eye test thing? Well, there's a lot of things afoot here. It's scheme, it's his ability to process when we're talking about Justin Fields. But I think with Nagy, like I don't mean to sidestep your questions about like the drills and techniques, because everything they're doing looks pretty standard. If there's something special going on, it's not obvious. All the drills that I saw at the Bears Open OTA yesterday looks like everything you usually see during these types of practices. Nothing stood out to me in terms of the drills or techniques they're being taught. It looked all very familiar to previous practices. To me, it's almost like the emotions of this decision, the decision of going from Dalton to Fields. Like, is he ready? Like, you almost have to take emotion out of it, because everybody's eager to see Justin Fields, right? I'm eager to see him. Fans are eager. I'm sure Matt Nagy is crazy eager to see him. But when does that clock start? When is the right time? You got to take emotion out of the equation, and emotion right now is part of it. I think you'll come along with the scheme. I think he'll come along with the process and the decision-making that Matt Nagy wants to see. To me, it's the emotions of it. Is he ready to handle it? There's a lot there. So it's schematically, it's the process, it's the decision-making, but it's also this emotional part that you need to take into this decision. It's how eager are you? Is he truly ready? There's a lot involved. So I think that's to me, if I had to weigh things, that stands out to me, because there's an excitement that comes with Justin Fields, and eventually you're going to want some of that excitement on the field. But is he truly ready for that moment? I guess you never know until you throw him in there, but that's on Matt Nagy to make that decision. All right, going through these. This is from Brian Phillips. Is it okay to wear my old Parkey jersey to save money at my new Fields one? I would suggest getting rid of that Parkey jersey immediately if you can't change that nameplate. This is from Dwayne Corey. Do you really see Nick Foles on this roster next season? I do not. Thanks. Dwayne, no, I do not see him on the roster next season. I think there's still a debate out there whether or not he can be traded before the season, whether or not it takes an injury or something like that to make that come to fruition. But the Bears did try to trade him before the draft, after the draft. There were conversations he was in the trade market, and there were no takers for Nick Foles. So he's part of this quarterback room. And I think the Bears are okay that, you're trying to help the player out. I think Nick Foles is probably maybe a little bit more comfortable here than returning to other teams. And he's okay with being another mentor for Justin Fields. He's okay with being that third string quarterback. Matt Nagy made that clear. He's okay with that. He's okay with helping Justin Fields as much as he can. The same applied to Mitch Trubisky. Now, that was a bit different because they were in a quarterback competition, but I think the Bears see immense value in having a Nick Foles around for as long as possible. We'll see if he gets traded or not, but the Bears do see value in having a quarterback who's won a Super Bowl, a quarterback who has been in big games, a quarterback who has been with different teams at different points in his career, and having that type of insight available for Justin Fields, I think they see as immensely beneficial, at least for the time being, here on June 3rd at 9:55 in the morning. This is from Joe Springer on Twitter. Who do you expect to start on the interior offensive line? 2 former second-round picks and 2 former undrafted players are going for 3 spots. Here is your starting offensive line right now. I think you have a competition at left tackle between Elijah Wilkinson and Tevin Jenkins. I think eventually Tevin Jenkins is going to take that. But then you have Cody Whitehair at left guard, Sam Mustipher at center, James Daniels at right guard. Yes, left guard Whitehair, center Mustipher, right guard James Daniels, and then at right tackle you have Jermaine Ifedi, who looks thin and in shape. He looks good. This at least talking to him over Zoom yesterday, looks in good shape. We know Juan Castillo earlier this offseason thought he could play at a Pro Bowl level. We'll see if that comes to fruition, if that's even a real possibility for Jermaine Ifedi. But Ifedi liked his coach talking him up a bit. He does seem motivated by it, and he's got to hold down that spot before Larry Borum, the Bears' prize 5th-round pick, comes in. That's a 5th-round pick. The Bears actually had 3rd-round grades on, so we'll see how long that lasts. This is from Dakota Harper on Twitter. I'm going to ask the obvious question here, but how the new quarterbacks look, how the new QBs look. I said this earlier in the show. As far as first impressions go, Andy Dalton was considerably better. I'm not going to say significantly, but considerably better than my first impression of Nick Foles. It was the quick release. It was the completions. It was the lack of checkdowns. Again, this is an OTA. The guys are just wearing shorts and their helmets, and a lot of the Bears' best defensive players weren't there. But as far as first impressions go, it was better than Nick Foles. Andy Dalton looked better. The offense looked better than Nick Foles. Now, it does help that there's an OTA to get through. But, guys, when Nick Foles came in during training camp, I think his start was just flat out disappointing. I think the Bears expected better. I think that's why you saw Mitch Trubisky win that starting job. Not because Trubisky was significantly better. He was better, in my opinion, but because Nick Foles struggled immensely in training camp. And Andy Dalton looked okay, looked pretty good in the open OTA that we went to. I was impressed. It was better than Nick Foles. All right, let's get through a few more of these. This is from Chris Humphreys on Twitter. Will Cole Kmet be integrated into the offense earlier than he was last year? What sort of production is realistic to expect from him in year 2? I made a note of this in my OTA notebook. You could check that out on the Athletic right now as you're listening. There were 2 players who stood out to me during the Bears' first OTA. It was Cole Kmet, the second-year tight end, and veteran wide receiver Marquis Goodwin. I didn't know Goodwin was that fast. He seemed open a lot. Again, this is against some of the Bears' backup defensive backs, but he had a good day of practice. His speed stood out to me. I think from an intangible perspective, you're going to have some good things happening there as well, with some of the younger guys kind of gravitating towards him. But then there was Cole Kmet. It was the catches at the back of the end zone from Andy Dalton and Justin Fields. It was one-on-one against Roquan Smith, and this is during a team drill, and creating instant separation. This is one of the Bears' best defenders, the only starting linebacker there, and Cole Kmet won that rep and had a decent game for Andy Dalton and the Bears offense. Like, that stood out to me. You write that down in your notebook. He's a guy you watch. And yes, the expectation this year is that he will be integrated faster into the offense. He will be important to Andy Dalton. He will be important to Justin Fields whenever he takes the field. He's supposed to be one of your better offensive weapons. And I think you saw some of that play out Wednesday at Hallis Hall. He looked good. Now I want to see it against the Bears' best defensive backs, but he looked good on Wednesday during OTAs. Let's go through a few more of these. This is from Sean. Does Justin Fields look like a natural out there so far? Again, the Wednesday probably wasn't one of his better days, but you see it. Like it's like the deep pass on to David Montgomery, running out of the backfield. Like the talent is there. He looks the part. You see it in the interactions with his teammates. You see it on even in some of the most basic drills that they do. Yes, he looks the part. Now I want to see what happens in veteran minicamp when all the veteran defensive players are expected to be there because it is mandatory. And I want to see what happens during training camp. But Justin Fields looks the part. Like he does. He looks like a professional quarterback. And the Bears should be extremely excited about what they have there. Let's do two more here. This is from Dylan Davids. What's your biggest concern going into OTAs with the team? I don't know if I have one. My most concerning position is outside linebacker because I think it's a very thin position. I will say this. I took note of how much bigger Travis Gibson looks as opposed to last year. This is a fifth-round pick that the Bears traded into the fifth round, I should say, last year to get. This is a guy the Bears are counting on to bring some production to defensively. And the pass rush was not a strength for the Bears last season. They're going to need some help. And Travis Gibson should provide that help. I don't know how much you could count on Robert Quinn. We know Khalil Mack will be Khalil Mack. Will he produce at a defensive player of the year level? I don't know, but that's the expectation. It should always be the expectation for Khalil Mack. But Travis Gibson is a guy that has to produce. He needs to do more than he did last year. Now, he was playing a different position than he did in college. That there was an adjustment from being a hand into the dirt defensive lineman, in a sense, at Tulsa, as opposed to what he's being asked to do right now as a 3-4 outside linebacker, a guy who is in an upright position. This was a transition for him. His coaches have made this clear. But looking at him yesterday at OTAs, he looks bigger. He looks a little bit faster. Again, let's see what happens when it ramps up in training camp and the full pads are on. All right, last question here. Let's try to find a good one here. Bear with me. A lot of Tariq Cohen questions. Tariq Cohen was actually at practice. He wasn't doing much. We know he's returning from that torn ACL last year, but he looked. Now, he wasn't in drills, but he looked like the same energetic running back, player that he's always been, dancing to the music, hopping around, cheering on his teammates, a lot of high fives from him, always flinging a ball around in the air. That's Tariq Cohen. That was there. You could tell he's excited to return to the field. He's going to be an important player for Matt Nagy's offense. I think you have to start looking at him differently than just a normal running back, because he is different from that. He is not here to take carries away from David Montgomery. Damian Williams is here to help David Montgomery carry the load. The veteran running back from the Chiefs, he's here to do that. Tariq Cohen is an adjuster. In many ways, he's a slot receiver for the Bears offense. Now, he comes out of the backfield sometimes and then goes to the slot, but that role is there for him this year. He'll get his carries, but there'll be a lot of pass plays designed specifically for him. And I think the Bears missed that last year, significantly missed that last year when Tariq Cohen was hurt. Matt Nagy loves to use him as just a different versatile chess piece, and he didn't have that last year at his disposal. There were a few questions about Anthony Miller. Saw some drops. He did have a big catch from Justin Fields. I think he actually shared that today on Instagram or something. So check out one of Anthony Miller's social media things for that highlight. But this is a big year for him. Let's be honest. Marquis Goodwin stood out to me yesterday at OTAs. Darnell Mooney. He's your number 2 wide receiver. I think he's going to benefit from the deep ball that Justin Fields has, whatever that takes or becomes a big part of the Bears offense. And then you have Allen Robinson, who wasn't there at OTAs, but he's your number 1 wide receiver. And then, okay. I think that is going to be it. Just a quick thought. There was a couple questions on the Bears defense. I don't mind this, guys, with all the defensive players missing practice. I don't think it's that much of a big deal. It is great that they're all in these Zoom meetings. It is a different year. We're still on the tail end of this pandemic, and like the Bears were one of many teams, the majority of teams, I should say, in the league that issued statements about sitting out these practices. So, some players were. Like, I wasn't expecting to see Khalil Mack out there. I wasn't expecting to see Danny Trevathan out there. I wasn't expecting to see Akeem Hicks out there. And really, I think they've earned the right to not be there. You know what you're going to get for them. Yeah, there's always questions about what they're doing away from the field because you want to know, what their workouts are like. But do you really have questions about those guys' work ethic? I don't. I don't think the Bears do. Yeah, they would love them to be there, but these are your proven leaders. They've earned the right not to be there. These are voluntary. You see it across the league. Some of the best players on a lot of teams across the NFL skip out on these things. So I'm not too worried about it. Now, would you like to see Deanne Bush and DeAndre Houston Carson and Jordan Lucas and Artie Burns, some of those guys there? Yeah. But as far as your starters, I think they're okay missing a couple days in June. And they're in these Zoom meetings to connect with Sean Desai anyway. So I'm not too concerned about it. But I do like, I do like that Roquan Smith is there. I'm going to write about this on The Athletic later today. But this is a guy who's becoming a leader for your team. Just like David Montgomery on the other side is becoming a leader for your team. And there are some new young voices taking over. And I think Roquan Smith is going to be one of them. I think David Montgomery is going to be one of them. I think eventually Cole Kmet is going to be one of them. And this is what you need. The Bears were a team that because of their free agency moves have gotten older the past couple of years. And now your young leaders, your Roquan Smiths, your David Montgomerys, your Cole Kmets are being heard more now. They're becoming your leaders now on both sides of the ball. And I think that's an intangible benefit that can't be underrated. So if I'm looking at this through a positive lens, I'm talking about the absences of all the defensive players. I like that Roquan Smith is there. I think you're going to see him take another couple steps on the field after his Pro Bowl worthy season last year. I think you're going to see that development continue on the field. And then I think off it, you're going to see a special player. Matt Nagy highlighted this too. You're going to see a special player come about for the Chicago Bears. That's it. Near solo podcast for Hoge Jahns. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week. I think Hoge might be back. Maybe Kevin Fishbane might fill in. Maybe Robert Mays. We'll see what we do. But we'll be back to discuss another Bears OTA. I will field your questions as well. I like doing that, especially after these open OTA practices in June. So I'm here for you. We'll answer your questions again. But thanks for listening. You can follow me at Adam Jahns, Jahns. You can congratulate my guy, Adam Hoge, on the birth of his daughter, Olivia Rose, at Adam Hoge, Hoge. Thank you. Check us out next week. See ya.